Hey, good morning, grade 6. We're going to look at a new lesson today called Dividing Decimals by Whole Numbers. And what we're going to be doing is, by the end, you should be able to divide decimals by whole numbers using base 10 materials, money, and then the division algorithm. And algorithm is just a fancy way to say like the long division method that we're hopefully relatively familiar with. And so a couple of learning skills we need to have sort of beforehand. We need to be able to multiply whole numbers using base 10 materials. We need to be able to divide whole numbers using long division. And we need to have an understanding of decimal place value up to about the hundredths, so 2 decimal places. And so we're going to get started. Where we're going to start is using some base 10 stuff. Where we're going to start is using money stuff, actually. And so we have this question here where it's 6.39 divided by 3, and what we're going to do is sort of imagine that it's like $6.39. So I have it sort of roughly out here. I have like loonies, I have dimes, and I have some pennies. This is a nice, simple sort of question where it's all these numbers are divisible really well by 3. But we're going to divide them into 3 even groups, because the question here is, if we divide $6.39 among 3 friends, which coins will each friend get? So we're going to divide each of these sort of groups of coins into 3. And so I'll just use my draw tool. And if I take these 6 loonies and divide them into 3 even groups, it's going to look like this. Right, so each friend is going to get 2 loonies, which means they're going to get $2. Each friend is, if I divide my 3 dimes into 3 even groups, that means that each friend is going to get 1 dime. And then look at that, it made my, I'll change the color. I made my pennies into little triangles. But each friend is going to get 3 of the 9 pennies if I divide them into, like I said, 3 even groups. And so each person is going to get, obviously money, $2.13. And so I can say then that 6.39 divided by 3 is going to equal 2.13. And so it's kind of nice being able to use money, especially when it's evenly divisible. Sometimes the number is not evenly divisible by what you're being asked to divide by, and so that gets a bit trickier. And so what we can do in that situation is we can actually move over to trying to use some base 10 models. And so what we have here is this. So this here is the what's called the standard algorithm for division. This is like the long division model. Over here I have base 10 stuff, which we're going to be using. And so our question here is 7.34 divided by 2. And so I have 7.34 done out in base 10 stuff. And so the first thing I want to do is see if I can divide 7 into 2 even groups. Now I know I can't. I can divide into 2 even groups like that. And so I know that from a number perspective, I know then that 2 fits into 7, sorry, 3 times. Or I can divide 7 into groups of 3 with 1 left over. And then so I've got 6 here because 2 times 3 ends up being 6. And then when I do that subtraction, then I have that 1 left over. That text is a bit small to see, but so there's my 1 left over. Now, when we end up with sort of 1 left over, especially with base 10, what we start talking about doing is regrouping. And so what I've actually done is I've regrouped that one as tenths here. And then so what I'll just move it over here. It's a little bit, okay, because what happens is, so I've now regrouped, and what happens is I bring down this 3, and so I've got 13 here. Notice I have 13 sticks over here. I wish this sort of filled in a bit better, but So now I've got to see how many, you know, how big the groups are when I divide into 2. And so if I take 13 and I divide it into 2, what I end up with is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, yellow is a little bit hard to see. Sorry about that. And then I have so then I have 6 with the 1 left over, right? So then I say I can make groups of 6, and that's going to give me 12, because 2 times 6 is 12. So then I would write 12 down here. And I'll move those numbers around. And then what's going to happen is that I'll have that 1 left over, that 1 rod, or that 1, you know, 10th rod left over. So then I've got my 400ths over here. Now what happens is I'm going to have to break this up into 400ths. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste so I'm going to regroup It is not liking me today. There we go. Regroup. My 2. Sorry, I need 2 more. Come on, you. Technology is great when it works. All right. So here's my, my 14 leftover hundredths, because I'm going to bring down. I'm going to change color back to blue. I got to bring down that 4. And then this is going to become a 4. So now I got to figure out how many groups I can split how big the group is if I split 14 into 2 even groups. And so we'll do a freehand draw again. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then let's say 7. Sorry about the wonky looking circles. But 14 can get split up into 2 groups of 7. Right? So the 2 groups of 7, so then what I can say is that 2 fits into 14 7 times. And then 2 times 7 actually is 14, which gives us 0 remainder. Technology is great and it looks neat, but the last thing that we need to remember to do is make sure that we bring the decimal up here, because if we're saying 7.34 divided by 2, that's going to equal 3.67. And so that's our way to show that. Now, if you want, you can pause it here in your on the video, and then you can work on number 1. It focuses on this stuff here with the regrouping of the base 10, and that's on page 39 in your workbook. Okay. There's some exercises here. Again, you can pause them and check them out. I don't need you to do them with base 10. What you can do, and I'm actually going to just sort of focus on maybe the slightly larger one of 49.44 divided by 4. And I'm actually just going to draw that out. So 4, let's see if I have enough room. Started a little higher. So 4 into 49.44. I'll trim that up a little bit. There we go. So first thing we try and figure out is how many times 4 goes into 4. Well, that's just 1. So 4 times 1 is 4. And then I do the subtraction. So that gives me a remainder of 0. I'm going to bring the 9 down, draw a little arrow. Then I have to start figuring out how many times 4 goes into 9. So 4 goes into 9 2 times. And then 4 times 2 is 8. So I do that subtraction, and I'm left with 1. And then I have to bring the other 4, or the next 4 down in my tenths spot. So then I'm figuring out how many times 4 goes into 14, and that is 3 times. And 4 times 3 is 12. And I can do my subtraction to find the difference, which is 2. Then I'm going to bring my last 4 in the hundredths spot all the way down here, and I'm going to figure out how many times 4 goes into 24, which is 6 times, and 4 times 6 is 24. Oh, I'm going to run out of room and do the subtraction there, and that does not have any remainder. The last step here I need to remember is to make sure that that decimal ends up here above the line. And so the answer to 49.44 divided by 4 is 12.36. So that's how to do the standard algorithm. And I would say pause it here, but at this point, that's the lesson. You can move on to page 40 and work on numbers 2 and 3. There are word problems on there, which I would encourage you, if you have difficulty with word problems, use the cubes method. It's something that I've talked about in a previous video, and check that stuff out. So happy dividing, and I'll see you guys next time.